Good morning and welcome to another edition of the Daily Fix. I am your usual host and presenter, Advocate Chulohoyan. This morning I want to share with you some of the challenges that I'm going through personally. Ever since I embarked on this campaign to bring awareness to what is happening around the Meyiwa investigation and the trial itself. I am an advocate and I am aware of my professional obligations. I don't need lessons in professional obligations. Now, what I am facing at the moment are people who are critical of what I'm doing. Some of them feel very strongly against what I'm doing because they feel that as an advocate, I ought not to be making comments about an ongoing trial. And I've made those comments, and I'll continue to make those comments. Because justice is for us all. Today it is Senzo Meyiwa. Tomorrow it might well be you or me. I have no personal interest in what I'm doing. I have said in the past that I never knew Senzo Meyiwa during his lifetime, except as a famous football player for Orlando Pirates. But it is the trial that attracted much more attention perhaps to me, to Senzo, after his death, because it impacts on the justice system of South Africa. If you are going to have a situation where in one investigation we get two parallel investigations by two sets of investigators who don't see eye to eye, that in itself shows that there's a serious problem going on within the South African police services. I personally have never come across this kind of situation. This is why I took it upon myself to make investigations, to get in touch with those who were part of this investigation, to try and find out why this came about. Now, that was the starting point. That was the starting point because it looked very strange to me. And as the trial unfolded, I then began to see a lot of worrying things. The latest worrying thing is the disclosure at a later stage or mid-trial of Gininda telling us that Kelly Khumalo is now the mastermind. You see, when this trial started, there was no mastermind. The people standing trial in that court were never informed that, in fact, they had a mastermind. And the prosecution was obliged, legally obliged, to inform them of the case that they were going to meet in court or face in court. This was never done. All of a sudden, along the way, there comes along this mastermind dimension to the case by Gininda, who actually says Kelly Khumalo paid these people, and all that I've been discussing with you with regard to that. We also have disputed confessions. You see, we cannot just turn a blind eye to confessions being brought before a court of law, and then they get disputed and we say nothing about them. So it is some of these worrying things, that make me go beyond being an advocate. You see, before I became an advocate, I became a human being with a conscience. I was a human being with a conscience, and I'm still a human being with a conscience now. So that my being an advocate, right, should not will not make me focus away, will not make me suppress my conscience when I see things going wrong and I simply ignore them, like many of my colleagues tell me, just you get out of this thing. But it's a question of you are damned if you do, you are damned if you don't. And I'll be damned by doing. Because it is by doing that I think something positive will come out of this. You know, if you just sit back and fold your arms, nothing will ever happen. For instance, in the last episodes, I've told you that I'm going to be writing a letter to Parliament's Portfolio Committee on the Police. I have done that, and I'll give you in a short while a short summary of that letter. I have written letters to so many people. Written letters to the state president, I've written letters to the National Director of Public Prosecutions, I've written letters to the Minister of Justice. I have not got a single reply. And some people are going out of their way to vilify me, to say, but this is a fruitless effort because these people don't even bother to reply to any of these letters. But that does not deter me, because the most important thing is I wrote those letters and expressed those sentiments in those letters. And they are aware of those sentiments. And they are choosing to do nothing about what is contained in those letters. That does not bother me. But that will not stop me knocking on every possible door just to bring to the awareness of everyone, every single South African, that let us focus on the Senzo Meyiwa trial. Something is not right there. Something is wrong there. And we all have a duty, to do something about it. To do something about it. So briefly, this letter that I wrote to Parliament's Portfolio Committee is along the lines of similar letters that I've written to many other people in positions of authority. The Portfolio Committee of Parliament was recently debating the issue of, among other issues rather, of corruption within the South African police services. I think the Senzo Meyiwa case is a classic example of some degree of corruption taking place in the South African police services. And I've indicated to the chairman of the Portfolio Committee that this is of very grave concern to some of us. The two doggers, for instance, corruption has a role to play there. Corruption has a role to play. There are two narratives that we have. Why are other people saying there were no intruders into that house? And why are others saying there were intruders into that house? And these people are investigators, remember. In some investigators say there were no intruders, and some investigators say there were intruders. How did that come about? Up to this day, it just baffles me how that came to be. But anyway, I have written that letter, and as usual, I don't expect much of a response. Maybe they might favor me with a response this time, or they might not favor me with a response. But whether or not I get a response is not important. What is important is, on behalf of the Meyiwa family and all other concerned South Africans, I think this is the right thing to do, because we have got to keep the torch shining on the Senzo Meyiwa trial, because it has been dealt with in a most unprofessional manner. And I think for the Meyiwa family, this sort of, advances their cause for justice. Because you see, if you just forget about this trial, it will just fade away. All those injustices will just fade away. Right? So, and some of us are not going to let them just fade away because some people somewhere are unhappy or uncomfortable with what we are doing. So the most important thing is to raise awareness, around these issues. And I will continue to do what I'm doing. I am glad that there are people who are coming up with very positive comments. I am also aware that there is a sector or a section of people whose comments are so negative, downright vilifying, vulgar, and you name it. Those people, for me, do not exist. They are simply wasting their time. Because I would suggest that rather than, you wasting your time watching the Daily Fix every day only to embark on this sort of, negativity, why don't you just switch off? Just probably switch off. And maybe your life will then get better, because I will not stop what I'm doing. I will continue to do what I'm doing because this is the right thing to do. Like on the 14th of April, there's going to be a demonstration outside the Pretoria High Court to say, justice for Senzo Meyiwa. Some people are saying, what will that achieve? It will achieve a lot. Awareness and publicity can achieve a lot under circumstances like this, because if the relevant authorities are doing nothing, we have a professional, I have a professional obligation to do something inside and outside court. Anything that will do, anything goes. Anything that will help will be part of my agenda. So having said that, let me thank you very much for watching this video and all the other videos that you've watched in the past. Please bring in those subscriptions and please have a nice Friday. Thank you very much.